Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another Under the Hood. This time we have our usual experts, John Guo and Jeff Engel. John is a Cloud Alliance Architect at Checkpoint. Jeff is the Cloud Technical Marketing Engineer at Checkpoint. But this week we have a surprise and wonderful guest. We have Chris Fields, who's a product manager at Microsoft. Welcome, Chris. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
And let's wait for a couple extra seconds before we get rocking and rolling so additional people can have some time to join us. All right, so let's start and jump straight in. Welcome to our Under the Hood webinar about migrating from Azure Hub and Spoke to Azure Virtual WAN. A quick agenda. We'll provide a CloudGuard Network Security for Azure Virtual WAN overview, which will be divided between Microsoft presenters, Chris, our product manager, and John Guo will take over as well. We'll talk about migration steps, which is the main content of this webinar. We'll look at resources, and there'll be Q&A. So, a few words from our sponsors, Checkpoint and Microsoft. Let's talk a little about the Checkpoint and Microsoft partnership. Excuse me. So Checkpoint is one of Microsoft's leading worldwide security partners. One of Microsoft's top worldwide ISV partners in the last few Microsoft financial years. That's what MSFY stands for. We have a bunch of award-winning Azure Marketplace offerings, including this new offering, which is Azure or CloudGuard Network Security for Azure Virtual WAN. Checkpoint was one of the founding members of MISA, which is Microsoft Intelligent Security Association, top right-hand side. And Checkpoint is also one of the premier Azure Marketplace vendors. What's very important, and we're not going to go into too much detail in this webinar, but expect the blog post to come out towards the end of this week, is that CloudGuard Network Security for Azure Virtual WAN is MAC eligible, which means that you can count your purchase of CloudGuard towards your Azure commitment consumption if you have that sort of agreement with Microsoft. And what's very important also for this discussion and in general is that we have a very tight relationship with Microsoft, a tight partnership with Microsoft, including product research and development and integration, Azure Sentinel, gateway load balancing, and specifically the integration with Azure Virtual WAN, which is what we're going to be focusing for the remainder of the Under the Hood webinar. So let me hand it over to Chris. Please take it away. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. And so I think it'd be good to start this presentation off with what is Azure Virtual WAN. Hopefully everyone knows, but here's a brief overview. So Azure Virtual WAN, or vWAN, is a network service that brings together networking, security, and routing functionalities all together in one single operational interface. So some of the connectivities we offer are VNet connectivity, VPN connectivity, remote user connectivity, and express route connectivity. You don't need to have all these connectivities just to start with. You can start with just one. So if you just have an express route connection or you just have a VPN connection, you can just start with that and add others along as your network evolves. The biggest takeaway here that I think that everyone should have is that Azure Virtual WAN is a network as a service that uses a hub and spoke architecture, and it leverages that Microsoft global backbone for all your transit connectivity. Pass it off to John.
Yep, coming off mute. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. So 1 second, let me get this. So guys, when Microsoft invited Checkpoint to participate part of these Azure Virtual WAN integration, where we jump on it right away, super excited about this integration. One of the main items that over the years for our vWAN customers asking Checkpoint is, hey, can you provide that east-west traffic inspection? And with the virtual WAN integration now, we're able to insert our CloudGuard Network Security gateway inside the vWAN hub. So that means that we're able to address our customer requirement where they want to have a full east-west and north-south traffic inspection. So pretty much anything that are connected to the vWAN hub now, what Chris mentioned earlier, like your VPN clients, your branch offices, your express routes, or VNet connections, right? Anything that are able to connect to the virtual WAN, we're now able to do the traffic inspection between all of these different services that you connected to vWAN. One of the corner cases that vWAN with this integration and the vWAN integration able to address is that express route to express route, right? That's another one that's a corner case that where customers usually have to deploy a separate security gateway in the express route endpoint, so able to do the traffic inspection between the express routes. Now we can do it, with the CloudGuard Network Security gateway inside the vWAN hub. Now the CloudGuard Network Security gateways is the exact same gateways that you used to that are for the existing CloudGuard Network Security customers that already deployed, that already have experience with CloudGuard. It is the same user interface, exactly the same image, right? So that means that we're bringing more than 8 years of CloudGuard Network Security experience into the virtual WAN as well. So this includes the management of the security gateway using our centralized management, the automation tools that we built into CloudGuard. Will carry over into the vWAN integration. So things like Terraform, Ansible, and the different deployment models we're able to deploy inside the vWAN hub to help you, automate a lot of the functions, right? Things like our CME, where we will bring into the vWAN as well to automatically onboard the CloudGuard gateways to the checkpoint management station, and also things like our CloudGuard controller, right? So we have over the years, we developed the CloudGuard controller to have the ability to read your Azure subscription, all the resources that you deploy in Azure. We have the way to read that information and apply that in the security policy dynamically. So you don't have to manage you don't have to touch them every time there is a new network connection into the virtual WAN. All that connection will be automatically added to a security policy, and the connection will get routed for you automatically in vWAN as well. So it's kind of give you more tools to help you automate your CloudGuard deployments. What else is new in vWAN is we're moving to a meter license model. This is where we are charging our customers based on the how much traffic you're pushing through the CloudGuard gateways. So this aligns to how vWAN is also charging our customers. So in terms of licensing and charging customers as well. So we're moving to a metering license. That's something. Another thing that's new. Yeah. So I think next, let's talk about some of the traffic flows that that we supported. So I'll pass this over to Chris on the next slide. A different traffic flow that is supported in the Azure Virtual WAN. Over to you, Chris.
Cool. Thanks, John. I think one of the things we want to highlight here, and I think that's most important, is that we work with our managed MVA partners, in this case, Checkpoint, to ensure that every single traffic flow that is supported in Virtual WAN is also supported in our NVA in the Hub solution. So all the connectivity that you would expect from your connections between branch connections, VPN connections, and your express route connections are expected to work in this Checkpoint solution. And we also work with the team. We meet heavily. We meet at least once a week, just to ensure that if any of these traffic flows don't work, that we can fix it, and then we can also work on developing new flows in the future. And then that shows how integrated our partnership is. So let's talk about some of the use cases that we support, some of the traffic flows we support. Oops, sorry. So first we have east-west branch to branch, and east-west VNet to VNet. Then we have north-south branch to VNet, and then we have north-south VNet to branch. We have north-south branch to internet, and north-south VNet to internet. We also have east-west branch to branch, east-west VNet to VNet, north-south branch to VNet, north-south VNet to branch, and Azure Express Route to VNet to Azure Express Route to SD-WAN. So now we can talk about migration steps. So here we have what we would call, I guess, maybe a classic hub and spoke architecture, where we have our security VNets in different regions, And both of these security VNets have VNets connected to them. They also have express route connections tied back to on-prem, and the circuits are set up in a what we will call a bow tie setup. And so this is kind of a classic setup, and it does work, and we have customers using it today. But some of the limitations that we've seen with the setup is, number one, it's a scale issue. Right. So if you wanted to keep expanding your network and growing it, you would need to deploy different express route gateways in each region, and you'd have to manage those connections. And so also you see in this picture, you see a VPN connection. And so you would need to deploy and manage these VPN gateways, which would require you to start creating VPN tunnels and a VPN overlay all over the Azure network, which becomes cumbersome over time, right? You just have to keep managing connection over connection over connection. Another thing that Another disadvantage of this is you're not utilizing the Microsoft global backbone, right? Because as you can see, there's no real backend connection between these two VNets. All the traffic has to flow through either the express route gateways or the VPN gateways. And so you have to manage those connections, and it becomes cumbersome over time. I'll pass it off to John here.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you. Yeah, look, I mean, this particular solution is for customers who want absolutely full control, right, of their Azure deployments. In addition to what Chris mentioned, that there's also another design where customers can connect the two security VNets together, essentially connected to the cross-region VNet peering. So for the customer who don't have those express routes, they can do the direct VNet peering as well. And again, same limitation what Chris mentioned earlier, where it's great that you have two or a handful of regions with workloads, but when you start to really expand, for enterprise expanding, all the workload in Azure, that you end up with tens of hundreds of different VNets. And at that point, even though you may be deploying the solution as code, the sheer complexity of it can get a bit out of control. Now, from a CloudGuard perspective, right, we've been supporting this particular architecture over the past 8 years. We can deploy our solution as an active standby, right, which for customers who want an active gateway, and then in case the active gateway fails, the standby gateway will come online. We have also a scale set support as well for customers who may have a burst of traffic, right? So maybe a big sale, end of year sale, or like Black Friday sale, where web traffic will increase significantly, and compared to your normal workload that you're running in Azure, we have the ability to automatically scale out our CloudGuard gateways. So and again, over the years, we've added a lot of improvements to this particular design, right? Which we, such as our CloudGuard controllers for the automated security policy, CME to automatically onboard security gateways to our management station. And on the Microsoft side, we've continued to improve, right? Whenever there's a new NVA offering, we have the ability, we work with Microsoft to provide that NVA support to increase the performance even more. And we also have a deep integration with Microsoft, things like Microsoft dependable cloud apps to identify those applications in your environment, right? So where your users are using to gain control into what applications customers can run across the environment on the endpoints specifically. And we also have integration with Microsoft Sentinel, right? So all the security events are coming from the CloudGuard Network Security gateways will go into Sentinel. So we bring all these features into the virtual WAN integration. So again, this particular design is really for a customer who wants absolutely full control of their Azure deployment. And then and it comes with some of the challenges that customers face, like Chris mentioned, like the scalability of it, using the Microsoft backbone, for example, to pass traffic across from one region to another. So yeah, so let's go into the next slide and what the vWAN able to help our customers address. I do see a couple of questions that came up, but I'll share that there's a question about NAT, so we'll answer that question once we get a little bit deeper into the presentation about the specifics of the migration architecture. So moving on to the next slide. So Chris, why don't you start from here, and then I'll take it from you after.
Cool. Thanks, John. So, just want to highlight some of the things we talked about earlier. So we had those limitations, and then we introduced Azure Virtual WAN. And so Virtual WAN is a network as a service that offers these integrated solutions in a hub and spoke architecture. So all the hubs are fully meshed, and that connectivity is taken care of for you. So if you deploy 2 hubs in 2 different regions, that connectivity is set up, automatically deployed for you. You don't have to do anything. You can also automate your spoke setup and configuration. And then so this leads to everything just being in one place, which gives you that ease of management and intuitive troubleshooting. You can also leverage that as we talked about before, you can leverage the Microsoft global backbone where you couldn't before. And so now you can connect your VNets, your branch offices, your remote users, and your ExpressRoute connectivities in one single place. And the traffic just traverses the Microsoft global backbone. So you don't have to worry about that traffic going through the ExpressRoute circuits or ExpressRoute gateways, or worrying about bandwidth limits on that, because all of that is using the Microsoft global backbone. And so you don't have to really worry about those things. Another thing that, really helps our checkpoint solution and our firewall solution is our new routing intent feature, which allows you to set up simple and declarative routing processes to send, bump in the wire for your, security solutions, like, the checkpoint appliances within the NBA hub is what we're referring to now. So that routing intent feature makes it very, very simple. You can do things just like, this is my private traffic, send my private traffic with the next hop to the firewall, or do I want to send my private traffic to the next hop of the internet? Those kind of simple troubleshooting, or those simple configurations, can be done with routing intent. And so that's kind of a high level overview of like Virtual WAN, how it solves these scalability problems that we were having before, and how this checkpoint Microsoft solution works to solve all these problems for you. So now I'll pass it off to John.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Right. So, from now that we have this particular architecture from the traditional hub and spoke, we're using VNets into the virtual WAN, right? Conceptually, it looks exactly the same, but like Chris mentioned, right, we built in a lot of the automation. So customers don't have to, when they attach a new VNet, they don't have to configure that UDR for every single VNet, or even at a subnet level, right? All that is taken care of for you automatically. So when you attach a new VNet to the vWAN hub, that traffic is let's say, for example, a customer attached the EU prod VNet on the left in West Europe, right? That subnet will get advertised across to the other region, right? So your Southeast Asia prod VNet will be able to communicate with a new VNet in Europe that was just attached to the vWAN hub. And then in the checkpoint level, we have the automation in place, right? So we'll read the tag value of the new VNet, and we'll automatically apply that all those subnets are inside the new VNet into a checkpoint security policy, allowing that traffic to flow right away. So this is something that we built. We work with Microsoft over the years experience that we bring from the traditional hub and spoke model into the vWAN deployment. So again, because all the connections which have to traverse to the vWAN hub, the perfect location to place security inside the vWAN hub, and to do all of the traffic inspection, anything that will connect to vWAN, we're now able to inspect this traffic. What Chris mentioned earlier with the how do we route traffic to CloudGuard Network Security is using the new routing intent feature. So with this feature, like Chris said, we have the ability to redirect all internet traffic to CloudGuard, and we also have the ability to redirect all private traffic to CloudGuard for inspection. So in here, we have the internal load balancer. What that means is that once you set the routing intent feature for internet or private, all the traffic will use the internal load balancer as the default gateway. So traffic will hit the internal load balancer, and the internal load balancer will use a 5-tuple to evenly distribute the traffic to the CloudGuard gateways inside the vWAN hub. From an architecture perspective, these are single CloudGuard gateways. They are load balanced by the internal load balancer, and minimum depends on the different throughput requirements that you need. We will deploy 2 CloudGuard gateways, up to 5 CloudGuard gateways in each vWAN hub. Now, this is, 5 CloudGuard gateway in each managed application. So you can deploy multiple applications as well, multiple managed applications. That means that you can deploy 2 different versions of CloudGuard Network Security gateways inside the vWAN hub. One's for the you can use one for the internet traffic, and you can use another one, maybe a bigger size, like they can handle, let's say, 40 gigs of throughput, 40 gigs for the east-west traffic, and for internet, you can set one for, you can set another cluster or checkpoint for, let's say, I don't know, like 10 gigs of throughput, for example. So you can divide the two different, using routing intent, you can divide into having one set of CloudGuard gateways for internet, another set for internal, or you can use the same set of CloudGuard gateways for both the private and internet as well. So that's the architecture. And from a deployment perspective, you can deploy these gateways into vWAN by using the by going to the Azure Marketplace, or you can find the third-party NVA in vWAN to deploy the CloudGuard gateways in the vWAN hub. And that should be it. So yeah, so that should be it for my part here. So next slide. See. Okay, so next we're gonna talk about the migration requirements. So Chris, why don't you start here, and then I'll follow.
Yeah, sure. And so one of the things we wanted to highlight here was, as you can see, the different requirements here, and then the different branch flows that we support. And I think one of the ideas was that I wanted to highlight for me, I think one of the most important use cases that we see with customers is that branch to hub, hub to VNet connectivity and use case we see. I think one of the things I've highlighted multiple times in this call, and one of the things we highlight all the time is just that ease of use and using the connectivity of the Microsoft Global Backbone. So we see a lot of use cases where customers have a VPN site connected to their local hub, and then they have workloads in a different region. And with Azure Virtual WAN, we take that simple, easy to use, hey, you can just propagate everything to the default route table. We have custom route tables if you need that complexity or you have security requirements, that's fine. But if you just want to say, hey, I just need my branch office to connect to a hub in a VNet in another region, you just propagate everything to the default route table and it just works. We see it work all the time. It's one of our bread and butter things. It's one of the things we make sure that works all the time. And when it breaks, we work very, very hard to make sure that everything's stable, but we don't see very many issues. But this is kind of one of the biggest use cases we highlight, and I think it's most important. So I'll pass it off to John to see if he has any use case he'd like to highlight.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you. Yeah, one of the use cases I do want to highlight here is the roaming users, right? Remote access. So, during COVID times, a lot of our customers and approach Checkpoint and Microsoft say, hey, now that we have all of our remote, all of our workers working remotely, it's overloading our remote access solution for on-prem, because it's hardware based. It's on-prem. It's difficult to procure. It takes time to procure new hardware, and it takes time to rack and stack the additional gear. So customers are looking into the cloud to how they can quickly bring up the remote access solution. So one of the things that resonate with me is that with vWAN is customers use the vWAN solution for remote access, right? So that's something that resonates with me. But look, at the end of the day, in terms of any type of migration from on-prem to cloud, or from cloud to from the traditional hub and spoke into the Azure Virtual WAN, one thing that that is important to highlight the requirements for highlight requirements ahead of time before you start building. So this is just a couple of few examples that resonate both Chris and I and what we see in our customers. But have your own list, right, of different requirements, and then make sure that the solution is able to address these requirements. And I also want to highlight that we have both Microsoft and Checkpoint. We have solution architects globally. So if you have any questions about the different requirements that might a requirement that you think it might not, some questions on the requirements, or maybe it won't address somebody's specific use case, do let us know, right? So a lot of these integrations and innovations that we have are coming from our customers' feedback. So definitely do reach out to us, but always have a list of requirements before proceeding to any type of migration. So this is important. So this will get you, hopefully this these set of requirements will get you started. All right. Now we're gonna dive into, before we dive into the details of the migration, different steps of migration, right? I want to highlight the some of the work that Jeff Engel have done in the past. So Jeff created an onboarding video on how to onboard the CloudGuard Network Security gateways into the vWAN, into a management station. So if you want to quick and dirty how to set up CloudGuard Network Security for Azure Virtual WAN, take a look at the onboarding video here. And then and then the next one is a routing intent configuration, right? This is really for customers who has a is for how to redirect traffic to the checkpoint. So once you deploy your vWAN hub, once you deploy the CloudGuard gateways, watch this video on how to redirect traffic to the CloudGuard Network Security for inspection. I mentioned earlier that the use case that resonated with me is remote access. So Microsoft has the point-to-site VPN support inside of vWAN, and now we also have at Checkpoint we also offer the same capability for remote access. So Jeff did an awesome video on how to set up the remote access VPN for users here, if you have that requirement. And then lastly, Jeff also did a couple of videos on zero trust access control and advanced threat prevention. So once you have your environment up and running, before you move your production traffic to it, right, watch this video on how to leverage some of the experiences that we have from CloudGuard Security over the years, and apply that into your vWAN deployment. All right, just hear some background noise, so please put yourself on mute. Okay, thank you. All right, so Chris, why don't you guys go ahead and get so in this so now we're going to go into the specific deployment, right? So deployment steps and how to get your vWAN environment ready before migrating your workload. So Chris, why don't you go ahead and start with the vWAN deployment, and I'll follow up on the CloudGuard deployment.
Sure. So first, to start off your deployment, you would need to create a virtual WAN. Your virtual WAN is just the container that's going to hold all your virtual WAN hubs. And after that, you would want to create a virtual WAN hub. Now, the nice thing we do is we allow you to do everything in one workflow. So in this case, if you'd like to create your virtual WAN hub, your express route gateway, your VPN gateway, or your remote user gateway, all in one shot, you can do that. You can do that all in one go. If you want to create your hub, just your hub for now, and just connect VNets to it, you can do that. And then you can always deploy your VPN or express route or point-to-site gateways later at another time. So we just allow you to do it all in one workflow. If you already know what you're doing and you already know what kind of gateways you want to do, you can all deploy it at once, or you can just take your time and just create the hub by itself and then create gateways as you go along. So that's how you would go about creating your virtual WAN hub and your gateways. Now I'll pass it off to John.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Yeah, so now that we have the vWAN deploy, right? Next is deploying CloudGuard Network Security. So you can deploy our security gateway from you can find a solution directly from the marketplace, so Azure Marketplace. That's one location where you find a solution to deploy it, and the other is that you were able to find it in directly from the vWAN third-party NVA tab. From there, you will select a list of the different NVA providers, select Checkpoint, and you'll be able to deploy the solution. Now, what is included in the part of the deployment is that we'll deploy the CloudGuard Network Security gateways. We'll also deploy the internal load balancer. And then for customers who has a multi-region support, you have this location for you to specify the AS number as well. So you want to have a unique AS number for each region that you plan on deploying. So this will allow the route exchange using BGP across the different CloudGuard gateways. Let me see what else. You go during the deployment. will also ask you a question, hey, how much traffic you planning on pushing through this vWAN hub? So as a general rule of thumb, follow the exact same throughput requirement when you select the vWAN hub, for example, right? So when you deploy the vWAN, it will ask you, hey, how much traffic are you planning on pushing, right? Just follow that. So keep in mind, give yourself some breathing room or growth, right? So depends on the organization, maybe like 50%, right? So or 75% more throughput requirement, then so this will allow you to some room to grow, or as you add more workloads to vWAN. So this is important. Now, of course, vWAN will allow you to increase that as well, increase the workload. Let's say a year later into a deployment, you need to increase the throughput. You can do that directly. You can do that in the vWAN tab. There's an option for you to increase the throughput. Now, from a checkpoint perspective, you can also do the same thing, but you need to deploy a new set of managed application. So new set of managed app, that is another cluster or checkpoint that will obviously require more throughput, whatever number that may be. So you can do that from there. So again, going back to deployment, you deploy the CloudGuard gateways, deploy deploy internal load balancer and AS number, BGP and everything is automatically set up for you as part of our image. So once it's deployed, you add the gateways to a management station, and for the customer who are migrating from a hub and spoke, right, you will apply the same security policy to the same set of checkpoint gateways here. This will ensure that all the application rules will move from the old environment to the new environment as well. So after you install security policy, then we can transition into the next step, which is testing. So Chris, I'll take this one here, Chris. In terms of testing, we recommend to test with 2 security VNet, test VNets. So you provision 2 VNets with a couple of workloads inside. How do you redirect traffic from one VNet to another is using the new routing intent feature. So you set up the private routing intent, which means that anything that are connected, anything that are connected to vWAN traffic to each other will be inspected by checkpoint. So this is all the non-RFC, this is all the RFC 1918 routes, RFC 1918 addresses. So traffic from VNet 1 to VNet 2 with the private routing intent will be able to go through the CloudGuard Network Security Gateway in the middle here. So you can also set the internet as well, routing intent for the internet. So if you want to test connectivity out to the internet from one of the VNets, you set the internet routing intent to the CloudGuard gateways, and then vWAN will redirect all that traffic to CloudGuard that are destined for internet. This is also a good time to test the resiliency as well. So by default, at a minimum, we deploy 2 CloudGuard gateways, so you can take down one of the CloudGuard gateways, make sure that traffic is still working between the VNets and also to the internet as well, and to sort out any recovery. If you need to recover one of the CloudGuard gateways, right, make sure that process is there to help you, recover that gateway. And lastly, just basic stuff like just make sure that you're able to see the log entry from CloudGuard Network Security, showing up that, hey, traffic between the 2 VNets, I can see the source and destination in our log entry, and also see the source and destination, for the internet traffic as well. At that point, you should be ready to connect your production workload. So, Chris, I'll pass the next one over to you. There you go.
Sure. Thank you, John. So what I want to talk about is our step 3, which is connecting the virtual WAN hub to your existing security VNets. And so for this, we have 3 different options. And so over here, we're going to highlight option 1. So for this option, this is for if you have your Azure setup and you don't have any express route connections or VPN gateway set up. You just kind of have some VNet. Your Azure workload basically just consists of your security VNets your security VNets and your and other like test VNets and things like that hold your workloads. And so for that to connect you to, you would pair the VNets together, and then you would use our BGP peering with the hub feature. And so what that allows you to do is allows you to peer BGP with different network devices, in this case, your checkpoint device, and they would exchange routes through BGP, and then all routing would basically be taken care of for you through BGP. So that's the first option. The next option is if you were to have an express route connection. So for that, you could set it up in what we call the bow tie express route setup. When a bow tie express route setup, you have adjacent express route circuits in different regions, and then you connect the different circuits to the different regions. And this basically offers you two main benefits. One, it gives you on-prem access to both environments, and then two, it allows traffic to flow between the two environments. And so that way you can kind of set up the connectivity and do your migration that way. If you don't have an express route connection yet and you just have a VPN gateway, it's the same process, except for in this case, instead of having your express route circuits connecting the two regions or the two sites together, in this case, you would have a VPN, you would create a VPN tunnel between the two VPN gateways, and that way you can establish connection between the two environments and the two setups.
Thanks, Chris. I'll take this one here. Thanks, Chris. Look, the different connectivity into the in the previous 3 slides that Chris mentioned, right? I mean, the goal of this, look, for customers who are deploying completely greenfield and they don't need to have the connection to the older environment, right? You just go ahead and deploy it. You don't need to make the connection, obviously. But we figured we include those connections into the new environment, which is to give the customer more time and option, right? And when the applications teams are ready. So if you look at the traditional 3-tier application architecture, we have your front end, you have your app, you have your database, the 3 different tiers. Sometimes the applications team can only do their front end, right, for this month, and then next month they can migrate the application servers to the vWAN environment. So having that connection between the old and the new environment, you're able to give more time to your application teams to slowly migrate, from the old environment to the new environment. The other good use case for making that connection is that you may have shared services that are hosted in the security VNet, things like Azure AD, private endpoints, or other remote connectivity into your business partners that may not, have the time to migrate to the vWAN environment. You can, once the connection is there, you are able to, fully utilize both the greenfield and the brownfield deployments, I suppose, right? So in this step here, now after the connectivity, in this step is really, what I highlighted just now is that, the applications team can take their time to migrate, their production VNets, such as prod VNet or dev VNets from the old environment. So what you do is that you disconnect your old VNet from the security VNet, and delete any UDRs that you have there, because you don't need any UDRs anymore. You can completely delete the UDRs and attach that VNet into the vWAN hub. Once it's attached to the vWAN hub, vWAN will automatically route that VNet's traffic to the vWAN hub and the rest of the vWAN environment, and that will get advertised right across, like Chris saying before. This the prod VNet now will get advertised from vWAN into the security VNet. So security VNet will know where to route that traffic now. Okay, so the first thing to do is, once you have the two environments running, start migrating the application. You can also an opportunity to migrate your data center or your DCs or branch offices via site-to-site VPN or express route. And then lastly, you decommission your, once everything's migrated over and you don't need the security VNet anymore, you can, decommission that. Anything else that you want to add here, Chris?
Yes, the only thing I would add is that if you wanted to keep that VNet, that security VNet, and transition it to a shared services VNet, we have lots of documentation and lots of use cases for using that VNet as a shared services VNet in our documentation. So we can link some in the notes, but you can definitely use that as a shared services VNet, and there's lots of use cases and lots of different scenarios where we see customers do that.
Okay, cool. Okay. Next slide. Okay, so next slide is for remote access. So remote access, this is really for, again, for customers who has remote users, right? So, now most companies are operating in a hybrid model. So users will come between the go to the office or work from home. Checkpoint offer, now we integrate with our vWAN integration, we're now able to offer a full remote access solution as well. For users that want to utilize the Checkpoint VPN client. Now, one of the advantages of using the Checkpoint VPN client is that we have a lot of security also built into our endpoint as well. And part of that, all the different security features on the endpoint is remote access. So now users are able to connect to the nearest region, right? To have connectivity into Azure, and also with the express route or with any branch offices connection by the VPN. The users were able to access all the resources once they VPN into the environment. So that's the remote access. Jeff has a great video on how to configure remote access for Azure Virtual WAN in the previous slide. So after the session, go back to the slides and get access to that video and how to set this up.
Yeah, it's also in the attachments of this webinar as well. If you take a look in the attachment section, you'll see all those links in there. Okay. Thanks, John.
Okay. Thanks, Jeff. Awesome. All right. Okay, I'm just clicking through the slides right now. Next slide. Okay, so this is the end state architecture. Chris, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, so we just wanted to take the opportunity to basically highlight that this is the end state where we have their two hubs. We have our express route gateways connected, our VPN gateways connected, our VPN users, remote users connected, and they're all connected in a mesh topology through the Microsoft Global Backbone. And so we just want to highlight that the advantages, as you can see in this diagram, all the advantages and limitations, all the limitations that we had before are taken care of now. And so you have that scalability, that ease of configuration. We have the routing intent feature, which makes it easier to configure your routing policies and your security policies all in this one place. Now that you've migrated everything's good. You can fully take advantage of vWAN and the advantages of this new architecture versus the previous architecture.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. What we're very excited about this integration. One of the new features that that are made available is the managed application, right? So we deploy our security gateways in the managed application. This will allow Checkpoint to build more services to make it easier for our customer to consume security. So we're looking into from a roadmap perspective, we're looking into building to help our customers automate the upgrade of CloudGuard Network Security gateways. We're looking into how do we more simplify the different connectivity. So we're working on the ingress connectivity right now with Microsoft. We're also working on things like improving the ability to provide the site-to-site VPN into the virtual WAN as well. So with site-to-site right now, that is being terminated at the VPN gateway from Azure. We're looking into bring that VPN capability directly into Checkpoint, so that we can have that do that deep packet inspection and provide the advanced security feature for our customers. So that's it for the end state. So now we can open up to questions. So there's quite a few questions in the Q&A. Sorry, anything that Jeff, anything, or and Chris, anything that you'd like to add here?
I don't know if it was mentioned, but in regards to ingress, did you mention early availability for ingress by chance?
Oh no, not yet. So yeah, that's a great question. So right now we're working with Microsoft to build the ingress connection as well. So we're ready for EA customers. So if customers are interested, do reach out to myself about send me an email, right? So my email is at the beginning of the presentation. Send me an email that you're interested in. Happy to set up your subscription and start testing. Okay. All right. So now why don't we move to Q&A? All right, so guys, I'll go through the question one by one. So the first question is it possible to perform SourceNet with Checkpoint NVA? So yes. So there are a couple. So in terms of SourceNet, there's a couple of deployments. So sorry, if you go back to the previous slide. So obviously, for all the internet-bound traffic, we'll perform SourceNet. We can also perform SourceNet to help keep traffic symmetry as well. So if you have any specific flow that you want to make sure that you can configure in the Checkpoint NAT policy, that will provide the SourceNet. So yes, that functionality is still inside Checkpoint. So it depends on the traffic flow. Maybe you can give me more information about the specific use case for SourceNet, but yeah, SourceNet is supported. The next question, will the recording of this session be available later? Yes, it will be available here. Yep, on BrightTalk.
Yeah, forever and ever. I don't think it ever goes away. So go back to the same link that you used to get here. Will take you to this presentation in recorded form.
Yeah. All right. So the next question is, can you use zero trust in a way that the only way out internet is through the Amsterdam, for example? And can you decide where native SaaS like Active Directory has a next hub as NVA to the internet? Okay. So can you apply zero trust in a way that, yeah. So yes, you can force all internet. So with the routing intent feature, you're essentially forcing all internet traffic from any of the attached security VNets or branch offices, right? Think of all quad zero, right? 000/0 route will go through the internal load balancer as the next hop, and therefore it will hit any one of the checkpoint security gateways for internet. So yes, you can force that traffic out to the internet, right, using the routing intent feature, right? So if the checkpoints will become the centralized choke point for all internet connection. Now, and then Jeff also did a very nice video on zero trust, access control, and advanced threat prevention. So take a look at those videos on how to implement zero trust with the CloudGuard gateways for VWAN. Now, I also see what you're saying, right? So maybe some of the security VNets, maybe some of the VNets like the dev VNet, where an administrator may configure a UDR for all traffic to go out the internet, bypassing the checkpoint. So in that scenario, no, that traffic will go out directly. But using either the checkpoint CNAP solution is to making sure that the configuration are aligned to your security policy. You can actually check for things like that. Any security VNets that are deployed in Azure, make sure it doesn't have a UDR to the internet, for example, right? So our CNAP solution, we're able to help you pick up things like that. And we also have a built-in mechanism to automatically remediate, right? So let's say a developer made a mistake and connected a VNet that has a UDR point out to the internet, bypassing the VWAN security. We have the ability to automatically help you fix that problem using our CNAP solution. And Microsoft also has a CSPM solution that also does the same thing, right? Making sure that anything that you connect to the deploy in Azure stay in compliance. I hope.
And there was a second part of that question, John. I'm not sure that we answered. Is in regards to native SaaS like Active Directory, he mentions ER, so express route or internet. Do we know? Do we have that much? I think we can granularly control that. I'm not sure, but I'll let you answer that.
I'm not 100%. I'm not 100% understand the Active Directory as next hop as NVAs. So maybe you can send me another.
Send us a message, Sebastian, on that. We want to investigate a little bit further and get some more details on the requirement.
Mm-hmm. So that's this one here. Chris, you want to take this one? What is the limit? How many spokes and hubs that we can deploy?
Sure, I can take that one.
Yeah.
So the first one, I'll take the first one. It's easier. The number of VNets is 500 total VNets minus the number of hubs you have. So that's just the Azure SD-WAN platform limitation. The second one is a little bit more tricky. There technically isn't a limit on the number of hubs. We've seen customers do up to about 20, maybe 30 hubs per region without any issue. So if you're deploying something more than that, let us know and we can make sure we scale test it before you do. But theoretically, there's no limit, and the highest we've seen is about 30 hubs per region.
Thanks, Chris. All right. The next question is, how do you go about deploying multi-vendor NVA in a single V1 hub, a Cisco SD-WAN NVA for WAN connectivity, and a Checkpoint CloudGuard NVA for traffic inspection? The answer is yes. So in customer, for the use cases where customer has SD-WAN, right, which is one of the first NVA solutions integrated into the V1 hub is the SD-WAN providers. So for those specific use cases, just imagine this picture here, right? On the left will be the Cisco SD-WAN appliances in the hub, right? And then in parallel, we'll deploy the CloudGuard Network Security gateway in the second hub in the same region, right? So for the SD-WAN customers out there, you will deploy SD-WAN in one hub in one region, and then you will deploy the checkpoint in another hub in the same region. So the traffic that are so the branch offices and the HQ and of the connection for the SD-WAN, it will connect to the SD-WAN hub. But for all the the VNets and even express routes or VPN, right, connectivity will connect to the checkpoint hub. So yes, both the SD-WAN and the firewall can coexist, but they will have to be deployed in two different hubs. Okay, I hope that answered your question there. And feel free to ask another question if you have a follow-up question on that.
Let me share my screen really quick on that. I brought up
thanks, Jeff.
Real quick.
Yep.
So hopefully you can see that. There we go. So this is what John was trying to describe verbally.
Yes.
Here's a visual. Here's a visual showing what he was talking about. So hopefully this makes sense. I'm going to take a screenshot of this, and it'll be on the recording as well.
Yep. Yeah, so pretty much any of the branch offices that are connected to the SD-WAN, right, appliances, so Cisco, Barracuda, so there's a whole list of different SD-WAN providers are integrated into vWAN. So you deploy that into the first hub. So all the traffic between the branch offices will connect to this hub. Now, when they need to access resources on the right, which is your VNets and different branch offices also coming over VPN, it will automatically, that route, right, the link in between the two hubs will automatically be in place. So as soon as you connect, let's say hub number 20, branch number 20 on the left to the SD-WAN, that branch office will automatically have access into all of the resources that are attached to the CloudGuard Gateway's vWAN hub there, and vice versa, of course. There was a question about inbound access. So yeah, so right now there are two options for inbound. So right now the supported inbound, like the production grade inbound access solution is to deploy a checkpoint cluster in a VNet, and you attach that VNet directly into the vWAN hub.
And so, I left my screen up because it actually shows it in this diagram as well. So if you look at the top, there's an ingress VNet.
Yep.
And that's describing exactly what he's talking about.
Yep, perfect. Yep, perfect. So yeah, this VNet 2 here for ingress, there is an external load balancer in here. So this is the where you will publish your external facing applications, and the applications will flow through the external load balancer to this cluster checkpoint. We'll do a source net to help keep traffic symmetry into your vWAN environment. That's the first solution. The second solution I mentioned earlier, right, which we're in EA right now, so we're accepting EA customer. So if we are bringing in Microsoft is bringing in the external load balancer support inside the vWAN hub. So this will allow our customers to do away with the ingress VNet here with the checkpoint cluster, and directly host your applications using the CloudGuard gateways inside the vWAN hub. All right. There's a question on load balancer health checks. Yes, that's a really good question. So load balancer health checks, we have it in place for forever. So it's leveraging the years experience that we have deploying in Azure. So we have both the external and internal load balancer. It run a regular health checks to the CloudGuard gateways, and yes, we will only pass traffic to the CloudGuard gateway once it has a security policy. So we built the health checks directly into our kernel. So once the policy is installed, the gateway is healthy, right? Then it will start responding to the health probe from the load balancers. So rest assured, you can deploy the CloudGuard gateways, but until it has a security policy, the internal load balancer will not redirect traffic to it. And you can also control that as well using the routing intent feature. So once you are comfortable with the security policy that are installed in the CloudGuard Network Security gateways, right? The health checks come back okay. Then at that point, you can start setting your routing intent policy to the CloudGuard gateways. All right, so one more question here. Guys, continue. We have time. Continue to send those questions, right? If you have any more questions. So the other one is the SaaS have, I noticed, is hard to route due to FQDN name. Due to this, we can't decide if SaaS is going to be routed to internet or default route to an ER, or SaaS is always changing IP address. So I guess, can you route traffic to on FQDN? Can we route traffic based on FQDN? That's a good question. My interpretation of this question, and please, you can have a follow-up, ask me another follow-up question, is that FQDN, it translates to an IP address, right? And the IP address can reside on, usually to the internet, right? Let's say FQDN resolved to an external-facing website, the internet routing intent will be able to route that traffic to the CloudGuards for inspection. Now, other SaaS services, you may have like a private endpoint, for example, like what you mentioned here. So ER or SaaS, right, changing IP address. For those scenarios, the private routing intent will help you redirect traffic to it. So between the two routing intents, if the SaaS application are returning with an external facing IP, then yes, you can, the traffic will get routed out to the internet by the external, the internet routing intent. Then, obviously if it's internal, right, it'll be FQDN. So again, it'll be the private routing intent will be able to route that traffic. At a checkpoint security policy level, you are able to set a security policy. You'll be able to set a security policy based on FQDN. So regardless of what the DNS response coming back, you just specify it in the security policy, this FQDN domain name, right? Then we'll be able to allow that access at the checkpoint level. So I hope that answered your question there. And again, feel free to reach out if you have any other follow-up questions on that. So we don't have any more questions in our queue. So I think we can. I think we're coming up on time as well. So I'll pass it.
I'm displaying our email addresses real quick. They're also in the beginning slide, the first slide.
Okay.
So I'm just displaying on the announcement section. I'm not sure how that looks on your screen.
I don't see it come up yet.
I went on mute. I'm not sure how that happened, but yeah, I just posted our email addresses to the announcement screen.
Perfect. So
Thanks, Jonathan.
yeah, sorry, I was just having some difficulty. I had to get out of Bright Talk and come back in again, so apologies. Firstly, thank you to our experts, Jeff and John. Thank you especially to Chris from Microsoft. Chris, we appreciate the partnership, and we're super excited to work together with Azure Virtual WAN. We think it's an incredible product, a credible service from Microsoft. We think it's very valuable for customers. We're very happy to be one of the first ISVs to integrate with Azure Virtual WAN directly into the hub. Please use our emails to reach out to us and tell us additional content that we can provide for you in the future. You know that we do these under the hoods on a regular basis. Generally, pretty much every 2 weeks, flipping between CloudGuard Network Security and other CNAP capabilities. It just remains for me to say thank you to everybody, and special thank you to Chris. If you guys want to say goodbye, please do so.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks everyone. Take care.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye.